I'm Okima Gunn, and this is Rhymefest. He is a writer, rapper, philanthropist, politician, father, husband, visionary, and much, much more. We had the opportunity to sit down with him. It's a pleasure to talk with Rhymefest and see what he has to say about his movie In My Father's House, and talk with him about music and a couple other things. So, Rhymefest, my first question to you would be, you recently did a documentary about moving into your father's house. It's called In My Father's House, and that was in 2015. What did you wish to accomplish by that documentary?
Well, fortunately, thank you for the interview, Seven.
You're welcome.
Fortunately, the house that we're in right now, that we're doing the interview from, is my father's childhood home. Originally, when I bought the childhood home of the father that I never met, that I didn't know at the time, my goal was to give my children the inheritance that I never got.
Did the film turn out the way that you expected it to turn out?
I think that's like asking, does life turn out the way that you expect it to turn out? You know, I think life is about finding your purpose and living in it.
Right.
I think sometimes we get too caught up in what the ending is, or what our reward should be,
Right.
versus what is our purpose and how should we be living in it. I had no expectation of the ending. All I was doing at the time was, when we did this documentary, it wasn't set out to do a documentary.
Right.
It was to find my father,
Right.
to reconcile the best way we could. And amazingly, it had a beginning, a middle, and seemingly an end.
Tell us your experience about running for office, because that's kind of a unique experience in itself.
I ran for city council. It's called the Alderman
Alderman, yes.
in Chicago, and it was it was the toughest thing I ever had to do in my life. I mean, in order to even run for office in Chicago, you have to be able to raise about $250,000 in order to be competitive, and we did raise that money. But that means sitting on the phone all day. People think, you running for office in the hood, you're gonna be out there talking to people,
Right.
shaking
It's
hands.
glamorous.
It's not. Nah,
Right.
it's not that. It's not like that. It's you're sitting in a room on a telephone, dialing for dollars. That's
Right.
what you're doing, because the dollars allows you the chance to make your case to the community, because you're buying advertising, you're buying mailers in order to send your message to people's mailboxes, not just email boxes. You can't run for office online. You have to run for office in people's homes.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have to get out there and make relationships, form connections with community, and you find out that community is diverse in its ideas and opinions. And then you find out that the black community is especially unique because of the problems we face and because of the apathy we face with those problems.
I read somewhere that they call you the Goodwill Hip Hop Ambassador. What do you think about that? Because I know you went to go meet David Cameron about
He's
10 years ago.
Yeah, he's the Prime Minister of the UK.
Okay.
I travel around and I meet a lot of people, and like how you and I are speaking right now about community, and we're speaking about just the human condition and how do we improve the human condition. These are conversations I'm having all over the world, and I don't think it makes me better than anybody. I just think that not enough people are having those conversations.
Okay.
And so perhaps what people may think makes me special is the fact that I'm willing to have a coherent, conscious conversation about the bettering of the human condition. And that even rarer is that conversation to take place within hip-hop, which is often seen as narcissistic and ego-driven, selfish, individualistic, material-based, culture. And I think that perhaps what may make anybody call me anything is not that I'm better or smart or anything, but that I'm willing to have conversations and be involved in the betterment of the human condition.
Okay, so recently, the House Democrats did a sit-in on assault rifles, and there's definitely something wrong with the government, because I think that when you have a group of people that take action at that level, then there's something that needs to be changed. What are your thoughts on that situation?
I think that on one hand, you don't want to criticize anybody taking a stand against something good, because it's that at least they're taking a stand for something. Mm-hmm. On another hand, black people are dying all over the country at the hands of police. I hate that they call it the Freddie Gray trial, like Freddie Gray is on trial.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not the officers who killed them. We don't even know their names.
Right.
You know, who's sitting in for the lives that are lost?
Right.
The American lives that are lost at the hands of occupied communities.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where are these people at when people are rising up protesting about just not being able, even in Chicago, not being able to afford to live in the communities that they grew up and were raised in? Mm-hmm. People are being forced out of their communities. Where are these lawmakers having sit-ins for that? For equal funding, for equal jobs, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And even if you look at, okay, let's say that the gun issue is the issue you feel like is the most important. They're not sitting in saying we need to annihilate assault rifles in America. They're saying we want to vote. They want to get a vote on whether or not terrorists or people on the no-fly list should be able to buy guns. Mm-hmm. It's stupid. It's asinine, and it's toothless. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if the campaign is that you want to annihilate or you want to get rid of assault rifles in America, let's start there. I mean, there is no reason for somebody to have an AK-47 or an AR-15. If I were in office now, depending on which office it is, mm-hmm. the first thing I'd like to do before I started with any type of policies or process is try to bring the community together in a way that's not synthetic or generic, in an authentic way. I think a lot of people are in office, but they weren't elected. Mm. You know what I mean? A lot of people just stayed home, didn't get involved, didn't even know who was running. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The first thing I like to do is let the community know, hey, you got a congressman. Right. I am him. Right. This is what we can do. Right. Not I can do. This is what we can do. Hey, you got an alderman. This is what we can do if we're together. And the first thing you have to do, I believe, and politicians don't start with this, because it kind of sounds like a pie in the sky idea, but it's not. You have to start with the love of community. Right. And unless we can start with the love of community and some type of cooperative economics, cooperative, you know, a voting structure where, hey, before I go vote here, how can we figure out what the community feels so that when I vote, I'm really representing your interests? Right. You know what I mean? I don't think that enough politicians have enough connection with the communities they represent. That people, we don't realize how conditioned we are. Like, we don't realize you like that artist because there was something that swayed your mind toward that artist. Right. You like that politician because there was something in the course of your everyday life that you didn't realize. You got something in the mail, and you was like, oh, I'll throw it away. It had his name on it. You heard a commercial on the radio. You saw a commercial on TV. You saw the news talking about it. You saw somebody at work was like, hey, what do you think about this, blah, 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 this person? And your mind, it clicked that name so many times, but that by the time you went to the poll, you were like, oh, yeah, that person. And you know nothing about their policy.
So how can we...
That's how we choose in
Right.
America. We choose based on trickery. And our minds are food.
Right.
Don't think that many things that you like or you choose were your own liking and your own choosing. Those were things you were swayed to. And so the first thing I would need to do when I got in office is deprogram even why you think you elected me.
Right.
And put the power back in your hands. Now that's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing because it's something about giving ignorant people information that threatens everybody. When did I realize that I could change people's lives?
Yeah, like when did you, and sometimes people, sometimes it comes to people as kids.
Well, when you realize the power of your gift.
Yeah.
When you realize what your life purpose is, when you realize truly what your life purpose is, you realize that it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We are connected as human beings. You and I, seven, in some way or another, you and I are one. You and I are, what happens to you affects what happens to me. What happens to me affects what happens to the cameraman here, right? And when I realize my life purpose, in that is something for all of us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
The problem people have is they equate individualism and money with humanity.
Right, right.
Money is not human.
Right.
Money is a tool that you work with.
Right. It's a resource. It's not.
It's a capacity builder.
Right. Are there any quotes that you live by, or any? Because I know, as an artist, people are always evolving and taking on new things.
I live by the motto: the only true power is the power to empower someone else.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is this: you can be an influencer, meaning I could say something, and it could be like, Rhymefest drinks Pepsi, so you should drink Pepsi. Or I can put you in a position of power. And if I put you in a position of power, rather than influencing you to drink Pepsi, if I put you in a position where you could buy whatever kind of soda you like, that's real power on my part. Because I took someone who had no money, who had no access, who knew nothing about soda, and instead of pointing them to a soda, I put them in a position to taste everything, to choose what they like. That really shows my power. I'm very powerful. And what if I take 100 people and put them in a position where they can choose whatever kind of, not only soda, maybe somebody might be like, yeah, soda too sweet. Rhymefest put me in a position, I can buy whatever kind of different water I want, smart water, this juice, that juice. Like, if I can put people in positions to empower themselves, that is what really proves my power.
Okay.
That I can make kings, that I can make gods, that is true power. The only true power is the power to empower others. The problem we have in many black communities is that many black elitists want to be advocates on the behalf of black people instead of giving the community agency over itself.
Finish this sentence. Africa reminds me of.
Before black people became science experiments. Black Americans, we not even the real people. We're science experiments. We're created and conditioned. Black Americans, people around the world look at us like, what?
What is that?
What is that?
Yeah.
Why do they do that? Like, why do they act like that? Why do they say that? Why do they call each other that? Like, Africa, some parts, because many parts of Africa now are also science experiments.
Right. It has changed.
You know what I mean? But when I think of Africa, I think of before black Americans were science experiments. Before the science experiment of the black American.
Okay.
Because they as soon as we got here on these shores, they had us in a laboratory. And today, what you have, I feel like when I look at how many of us, I have diabetes. I'm not going to be here that long. That's probably promised. Like, People are dying of cancer everywhere, younger and younger. If you don't fall to gunshots, if you don't fall to depression, more black men die of accidents in America than any other person. Just random accidents.
Right, I would agree with
And
that.
I mean, it's a scientific fact. It's a study. And more black women are manless. More black children are fatherless. It makes me feel like we're clones. You know how clones are just like inherently not like humans. So
Not real.
so they have these malfunctions.
Right, the tendency. It's like making a copy of something.
Yeah,
that's really,
it's not as.
I wouldn't say damaged, but it's like there's this. It's not the exact replica. It's something that's strange about it.
That's what Black Americans are.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, not to disagree or anything.
No, it is a disagree.
There
Prove me
definitely-
wrong.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to prove anything wrong, but I'm saying there's definitely a difference in culture in from African Americans to Africans on the continent to the diaspora. So there's complete difference. However, the things that make us internally the same or internally binded by blood is our culture. The same things that we do here are the same things that they do in Jamaica. We just do it in a different way. Same things they do in Jamaica is the same thing they do in Nigeria, Uganda, Tanzania, wherever. It's the exact
South
same
America,
things.
same thing.
Black people. Now, when we come to the understanding here in the United States that there is a difference. So there's a difference in culture, there's a difference in politics, there's a difference in overall thinking and doing here because this is a very commercial country. So in other countries like in Africa, it's not as commercial. So you can go there and you might see them do things the same way. But like, oh man, I eat that here, but they just eat it differently. Like it's the same thing, and they do the same dances that we do there. They just do it differently. Nothing. In my opinion, there's nothing that anybody can change about African Americans. African Americans are probably in the best position now in the history of the world to be able to say and do whatever it is that they want to do. I can go to Africa and I can meet with the president of any country and tell him, hey, I want to start to build a pipeline between Africa and the Americas. And I can do it and not be afraid that anybody's going to do anything to me or say anything to me. And there's many African Americans that think like that. But there is a group of people, like in any country, that are still struggling, still trying to figure it out. And we focus on that group more than we focus on the ones that are, and I guess those they would call them the lost sheep or the black sheep or whatever. But those are the ones that we say, okay, that, they're just, whatever, they're lost. Or
But I think what you're saying goes exactly to my clone theory. Is that if something is the same as you, the exact same as you, is going to probably dance like you, is going to have all of the abilities that you have, as we do. However, it's an experiment. It's controlled. So yes, we are in a great position as African Americans to change the world. Why don't we? And you kind of point, but you that's fine. But this is when the experiment kicks in, and you pointed it out. They dance in Africa how they dance because it is a language that they're speaking. And they know the language that they're speaking. And when we first came over here, when we were running from slavery, we knew how to beat the drum in a way to say go north. Now we beat the drum just for money. Who taught us that? How do we learn that? And then forget how to speak the language with the drum. But we beat the drum in the same way as our ancestors, but we don't even know the language we're speaking with it. We don't even know that some of the tracks, we deny that some of the music that we make has spiritual influence over us. And that is what I'm calling the experimentation. When you lose your name, when you lose yourself, when you lose your understanding of your power, and you're following something based on a generic synthetic philosophy of I'm just trying to get paid.
Yeah.
And you sell out. So that is not a real human being.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when I say that African Americans are living as experimental human beings and clones, we're being moved around by policy, and they're making us use our drum to move each other around. We're being controlled by something, and it's not ourselves.
And I said, and I agree with that, there is definitely a lack of culture, lack of understanding. We don't understand why we beat the drum. We just beat it just to do it.
What up, brother? How you feeling?
But there are, from my perspective, as I study and research black people, we are so intelligent, and this goes really deep, but we are so intelligent that even though we don't know why we're beating the drum, it's still being beat, and somebody's...
The intelligence you're speaking of is an emotional intelligence. We have an emotional intelligence, but once you lose your intellectual capability and the power to control not just your emotion, but your brain, then someone else can control your emotions.
Right.
And they use our emotional intelligence against us.
Right. Which is also expecting your spiritual.
So where is the world now because of what it is that is being done to us currently? This is the question I asked myself from what you just said. I asked myself, well, if... So
our emotional intelligence, for instance, is we love Brother Barack. Because we tend to love more than we hate. That's just natural in us, right? We love brother.
It's natural for humans.
We love brother. Well, it's especially natural for black people. But we love Brother Barack, okay? So now, if we get Barack to be the head of white supremacy, then by essence, our love for Barack will allow him to do whatever he wants to further white supremacy with our support. It's a part of the whole experiment.
Right.
Now, with that, whatever's going on behind doors, we don't see.
No, because
we don't see it, and if we don't see it, it's really kind of.
I think it's very visible. I think that we've been taught not to look for it and not to look at it. Right. So I'll give you an example. You can go look at any policy. You can go, the city, when people get money for their campaigns, they have to file a report on who all gave them money. It's very easy to see that the private prisons, have big investments in General Electric, who owns MSNBC. The major media companies are owned by about 3 corporations. You know what I mean? It's very easy to go find out that Monsanto's is owning the food and making it so that people can't even plant their own foods anymore. It's very easy to see what's going on. We've been distracted from information.
And the reason why I asked where the world is now is because I say, and I agree with what you're saying, these things very well could be happening. We can't see them behind doors.
The problem is we can't see them on where we've been taught to look for them at, which is TV.
So you say you're saying because we've been programmed not to see it, we don't see it. But you're saying it's there.
Yeah. We've been programmed not to look for it beyond. It's like
on a certain level. It's like a veil there. You can see it. You just got to pull back the veil. It's visible.
You got to lift the shade up, right?
Right.
So it's like someone painted a sun on the wall, and they got you staring at that sun on the wall, calling that the sun,
right?
And it's telling you that that's real because it's so bright and yellow, and then you're like, but if I open this up, I bet the real sun is behind this shade,
right?
And they're like, man, look at the wall. That's the sun.
Well, maybe that method of telling, or maybe that method of that why, as a history of our people, that we tell them to look for these things, maybe those are the things that we shouldn't be telling them to look for. Why do we care that Santos or whoever is, why do we care about that? What is the point in caring about why they're trying to kill us when we can just live and go and be free?
Because you can't. Because I'll give you an example.
Because I know
nobody will kill me. You
I'll do whatever I want to. You know,
That's not true.
As a black person,
That's not true.
I do.
That's not true.
I can,
so let me tell you why you should care.
Yeah. Well, when I say care, I mean, so why do we focus on it?
Let me-
And I'm not asking.
yeah.
I'm saying I'm not
Okay.
asking as far as to get a response, but more so
Rhetorically,
saying
right.
it's a rhetorical question. Why do we care? We don't have to care. It's not even relevant anymore. These people do this for the.
But it is relevant because you have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You have to fight for truth
Mm-hmm.
Right.
whenever you see something
What truth are
that
you
is
fighting
true.
for?
So
What-
let me give you an
Like,
example.
what truth are black people?
I'm
fighting
going to
for?
give you an example.
Yeah.
I have a friend who I love buying his watermelons off his watermelon truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me his family has been in the watermelon business for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I was 10 years old loading watermelons on the cars.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Monsanto's has a new product where there will be no more in 3 years, there will be no more seedless watermelons. They have one thing, seed and machine, where they're going to create all of the watermelons. I said, well, why don't you just get the seeds and from your watermelons or wherever you all grow it and just replant watermelons and do it yourself? He said it would be illegal because they own the patent. So they're using law. It's kind of like when the pilgrims came and asked the Indians, hey, can we have this piece of land over here? The Indians had no idea about walls and gates and fences. They were like, yeah, go stay over there. And then the pilgrims built a wall and said, hey, you said we can have this. It's ours. Don't you come over here or we'll shoot you. Sorry. They're doing that now with food. They're doing that now with water. You ever heard of the water wars of Peru? Where the water companies went to where these people were in Peru, where these people were harvesting water from the river for thousands of years. They built locks on these rivers and told the people, now you have to pay a water bill because we have to clean the water for you and purify it and stuff, and you have to pay a bill for that service. The people said, we don't have money for that. Like, we don't, and so the people started putting buckets out to collect rainwater. And they said, no, actually, we own that water too. And the people went to war with the government over water. Why should I'm going to go back? Why should we care? Because you have companies that are now owning the seeds that saying you can have land all you want. You better not plant nothing there. Saying you can have water that falls from the sky. Don't collect it. It's ours. So if you don't have warriors out here fighting for different things in different ways, I mean, the people went to war with the government and the water company left the country. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because somebody said, that's too far.
Yeah.
And I think as black people,
Yeah.
when you look at our communities, we've lost Harlem. We're getting ready to lose Brooklyn. We're losing the south side of Chicago in many ways.
Right.
Yes, we are free people, but that's individually. If we don't collectivize at some point and come together as community,
Then you've lost.
we've lost.
I think the message that we share with the people, and when I individually or collectively, is tattered. It's not a real message. God lives in people. God lives in us. And for anybody to say that they own anything, water, plants, trees, or anything that comes out of the earth, is obviously crazy.
Yes.
So, but for us to fight them because we believe that they own it is equally as crazy. You see, and so, what I personally believe is that if God wants us, whatever it is that we want as a people, we're going to have. So if one day we decide that, I want to be a crackhead today, well, exactly what we're going to be, because we, as black people, we're so powerful that we are able to visualize what it is that we are. Every single thing that I see is what it is that I am. Other races or other creeds of people on this earth, they don't have that type of ability, but we see, our gift collectively as a people is to be able to see for everyone else, and that's why they use us the way they do. So if we are able to see things that we want to see, if just one of us, like myself, if I decide that I want to go and say, you know what, I don't want to be here, and I write a speech and I go to the President of the United States and I can convince him to get me on CNN publicly or somewhere, go to CNN and publicly make an announcement to say to all the people in the world that it's time to go back to Africa. Well, it would have just been me, but then my message would have gotten out there to everybody, and then they would all collectively see me do it, agree, and then decide from there, and then that would change the whole world. So it's the message is tattered. We continue to try to develop into a system that does not want us, and Jesus, I'll only speak of Jesus because this is a perfect example. When he was here on this earth, he decided to not develop into the system, but to do what it is that he wanted to do. Despite what the Jews, Gentiles, whoever told him to do, he said, oh, well, if I want to heal this person on the Sabbath, I'll do what it is that I want to do. The people saw that, and they decided that they liked that vision, and then they saw what he saw, and then they came together. And so what we do as black people, what we say to our young people, we keep telling them, get in school, do this, do that, we need to do this, we need to do whatever, without realizing that we're not giving them a full vision of their culture. Black people, it doesn't matter if they can strip us day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, as far as culture is concerned. No matter what we beat on the drum, the message is still getting out there, but it's who it's getting out to. Because you can see people like the big rap artists or the big rap stars, they say something. It's not black people who are saying, oh man, I want to be like that. It's white people.
That's not true.
It's true.
That's not true.
100%.
No, it is white people who buy it as entertainment.
Exactly.
Hold on.
They're being influenced.
Hold on. No, it is white people who buy it as entertainment. It is our children who ingest it as real life. So I think that we have to distinguish. Just because we don't buy it doesn't mean that we don't look at rap artists the same way as grandma looked at pastor whoever who told her in her day.
Okay.
I will say this, brother, that I agree with you on many levels, and you're a beautiful, beautiful brother, man. Like, I can feel your energy and your spirit is genuine and authentic. What you're speaking of is that of a higher understanding, of a deeper spiritual connection. I know what you're talking about. And I feel the chills and the warmth of the love, bro.
Thank you.
We have to, when I talk about the science experiment of the black people here, how do we remove the wires out of our people in order to have, because in order to, I totally agree with you, that it may not even be about fighting a company or a corporation, but if we're not going to do that, if you're not going to dismantle the head of the snake, but then the solution would then be, because what we're saying is the same thing. We want to revive, awaken our people. We want to have us understand the God that exists within us. So either you have to do two things. Either you defeat the devil, or either you wake the people up collectively. And that will make the devil run, right? So it's the same outcome. It's just two different ways of fighting. Now, I would say you need to do both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's never an either or. It's a both and strategy. You have to, but you have a higher spiritual understanding. And so how do we get that into the collective minds of those who we are trying to affect?
Personally, I feel like it's going to be very difficult to teach black people about themselves. The only thing that will, and this is a message that God gave me when I grew up from a young boy to now, is that the only thing that will help us in general just to be able to understand life is by stepping foot back on the continent of Africa.
But there's one piece you're missing. You are correct, but often we do that and we miss two steps. We have to reconnect with our homeland. However, we
also need to have a consciousness.
Well, it starts with a consciousness. And then, I recently came back from Colombia. I spent a month in Colombia and went all around. I went to an island called Cartagena. This island called Cartagena in Colombia where black slaves landed as soon as they got to the Americas, the majority of blacks did not go to United States of America. We
Right.
went to South America.
Right.
We went to the island, the Caribbean.
Right. And some went to Mexico and those,
South
Middle
America.
Right.
Exactly. So we have to collect the experiences, meaning I have to learn Spanish because there are a lot of Spanish people, brothers and sisters that look like me and
That's
you.
true. That's true.
And we have to connect with them. And then we have to connect with our Caribbean brothers and sisters
Right.
in some way. Then, before we even go to Africa, we have to connect with our ancestors that were lost along the passage.
Right.
We have to connect with those souls that are in the water.
Right.
And once we do that, we can step on our land and understand what it is we are and what we really bring it.
Now,
I think
that could be true for some black people. Now, if I decide that black people out here won't even go to church on Sunday, let alone connect to their ancestors in the water, then it's going to be very difficult to get them to understand. But if I say, hey, look, I'm providing a trip to Africa for free.
but they won't get as much out of it. They won't get. And
Oh,
let me tell you why. They'll get a
disagree.
feeling. You'll get a feeling.
So are you
but
saying
you won't
that
get
they
the whole
won't?
understanding.
Are you saying that they won't? You're saying that there's a step missing. They won't
There's
connect the
always a step
connectivity.
missing. That's what we've been going to Africa from America for decades, and there has been no completion
Right.
of the connection between America and Africa.
Right.
The reason being is because we keep missing the steps
Right.
in
Right.
between.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's not clicking the way it should.
Right. Right.
You know, so if you look at the most powerful thing that African Americans have done for Africa, I would say was during apartheid. It was because of how we boycotted products. We boycotted Nike. We wrote our Congress people. I mean, black people in America stood up and said, South Africa will have no money from America. We will shut America down.
Right, and that was successful.
And that was successful. You know what I mean? So why didn't we really, at that point, connect? It's because we are missing those steps to how we got here. And now I agree with you on this. Again, I agree with much of what you say. If I can't get the people to go to church, much less to go, how can we? Let's go back to what we said in the beginning of the interview. It is not the many, it is the few.
Right.
All we need, if you get 20 people together and we take this voyage, that is enough for the ancestors to connect in a way that shines light on everyone. You know what I mean? The few powerful who know haven't done it, haven't put it together.
Right.
And that is our opportunity. You have to connect with your Latin brothers and sisters, your Caribbean brothers and sisters, your Haitian brothers and sisters. We have to love each other here in a holistic way. And then we have to figure out the ceremony to lay to rest those brothers and sisters that were lost in the water. Then you step in Africa and you're coming with a whole new understanding of black, historical blackness. It's different than just going from here to there. You gotta hit those goals.
Yeah, I can see that. As you're speaking, I'm
You're
seeing,
visualizing.
visualizing the
Right.
passageways.
It's a journey. Yeah, it's not just a trip. It's an actual journey.
It's not a trip. It's a journey.
Right,
You get it.
right.
It is a what do they call it? It's a rites of passage.
Yes. Yes.
African Americans haven't traced our steps through the rites of passage back to Africa. So imagine this: when the Africans would send the child out into the forest to go through these steps before you come back to the village
Right, to be a man.
to be a man. What if that boy would have just taken a horse and went from here to the end and back? He would have missed all of those steps that built him as a man.
Okay.
We haven't taken our spirits, our collective souls back.
That's deep. Great.